Welcome. This video will show you how to do some basic album cover design techniques and tools, and we'll get you started hopefully on your way to success on this assignment. I'm at Photopea and I'm going to go ahead and open from computer and find my downloaded album cover template that is found on Google Classroom. And I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here with the zoom tool just so we can see it a little bit better. You'll notice that there is a dotted outline here, and our first goal is to fill that in. So we don't want it to be just a dotted outline. One reason for that is if I go in and I try and fill it, it's going to fill in the entire page, and chances are you don't want that to happen. So Control Z to go back. I'm going to click on the rectangle tool. That's right down here. If you can't see it, you might have to right click and then choose the rectangle if you were on a different tool at some point. So rectangle. I'm going to go up here to the top where I can control the fill, and I'm going to choose no fill for now. And then the stroke, I'm going to make that black. So I'm going to choose this red box here and then black. And then I can increase the size of the outline if I want to. So stroke again is just outline. And then I can click and drag on those lines. The reason we use the template is because we know that this is the right size. If we were printing this out, it is the correct size. And I'm actually going to move down here. So I'm going to use my little hand here to just move down. I'm going to do the same thing to the back cover. So same exact thing, tracing around the outside. I'm also going to probably use the line here, the line tool. Right click, choose the line tool to just outline where my spine is going to be. I might delete these lines later on, but for now I just want them to be separated. Too bad. All right, I'm going to move my face here so you can see my layers. So these lines here, you'll notice if I try and go in and I just want to fill in the spine area, it's not going to let me because it says layer is not editable. Or in Photoshop, it'll probably say, do you want to rasterize the image? So I am going to rasterize these. I'm going to right click, rasterize, right click, rasterize. And I'm also going to do it with the back cover one, so rasterize. So I'm just rasterizing these three. If I turn the eye icons on and off, I can see everything is there. I'm not worried about this going outside of the lines at the moment. What I want to do though is combine these layers. So if I just go in and I click the yellow, it covers the whole thing. It also covers the spine. So let's say I just want the spines to be yellow. I'm going to right click on layer 4 and do merge down. And then do it one more time. So right click, merge down. So I'm merging these three layers together. Now they're all on the same layer. The downside of this is that now I can't delete these lines independently unless I went in with like an eraser tool or something. But I'm just going to fill in my spine designs here with the yellow. So that's the first step, getting all set up, ready to go. You have your outlines done. Now we're going to work with a couple things that we can do for filling in a shape. So in shape 1, that's that first one, because it's still a shape layer, if I go back to that rectangle tool, I can still control the fill of this shape because it's still a shape layer. It's a designated shape layer. It's not a regular layer. It hasn't been rasterized yet. So I can click here and change whatever color I want. I can also do whatever gradient I want. Okay, you can click here. Right here is where you can customize that gradient. So it's all about the colors that you already have selected here. So if I choose maybe this blue here, and let's do like a dark red. And I go in and I want this gradient to be the red and the blue. Whoops. If I can get it to work. There we go. Red and blue right there. So I have those colors. It's kind of a roundabout way to do it, but it works pretty simply. And then it also will give you the chance to just do white with the blue there and other presets as well. And then there are patterns in here if you want a pattern. I think I'm going to go back to that gradient. All right, next up, I'm going to show you how to get a photo of a person from Google Classroom, Google Images to Photopea. So I'm going to find a photo of Beck. So Beck, musical artist, because I know Beck is kind of all over the place. Here's a great photo. So I'm letting you use photos that you're finding on Google Images. Again, for later assignments, I will not allow this, but this one's great because it's got a solid background. It's going to make it a lot easier to delete any of the extra background. So I'm actually going to right click and copy this. And I'm going to go back to Photopea and I'm going to do Control V. And you'll notice that it's huge. So I got to do some resizing, which is perfectly fine. It's on its own layer, so it's on layer 1. Let's drag that this way. So I'm going to resize this layer, Control-Alt-T, and then it gives me those boxes that I can use to shrink things down. I actually want him a little bigger than that. I kind of want him over like a rule of thirds type thing, over in the right-hand corner, bottom right-hand maybe. I might even actually turn him over. So looking at your album cover design sketch, think about the overall design. How can you make it more interesting? And now I'm going to delete that background, and that's pretty simple. I just have to go to the magic wand tool. I'm going to click on that. We'll see it kind of bleeds in a little bit on his coat, so I'm going to drop that down to 20. Let's see if that fixes anything. Okay, that's better. I'm going to click delete. Still kind of bleeding into his shirt, so I'm going to drop it down to 10. Still kind of doing that a little bit. Let's do delete on that one. I think that one's okay. Delete. Yeah, perfect. Okay. And then to deselect, we're going to go to select, deselect. Now I have a couple areas where I need to touch up, so I'm going to use my eraser tool for that. I'm going to make the eraser a little bit bigger. Ooh, not that big. There. Just to kind of clean it up. So using that eraser tool is great for just kind of touching up, making sure everything looks okay. This is much easier to do with a mouse than just a trackpad. I will say that. Using a trackpad is really hard. All right. Pretty simple. At this point, I'm going to go to File and then Save as PSD, because if it crashes, I want to be able to refer back to an older previous version. That's really important when using Photopea. With Photoshop, you have a chance of it actually backing up a copy, but just be aware that saving multiple times is a really good thing. All right. So next thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do some text. So I'm going to work with the Type tool, which is right here, the little T, and this is the same in Photoshop, so whichever one you're using, go ahead and click on that, and we're going to add the words Beck on this main cover here. Right now the size is really tiny, so if I go in and type, it's not going to look like much. Up here again, this is where you can control the size, the color, and the font. So I'm going to highlight this. I'm going to change the color to white so we can read it better. We want to have readability. And I'm going to change the size. Just drag this up. And then the font is over here. Now, Photopea has a whole bunch of pre-uploaded fonts. Photoshop, you can actually add fonts from the Type toolkit, I believe it's called. And if you're not sure how to do that, you can just Google it. It's really quick and simple, but adding fonts is really easy in Photoshop as well. And here, there are tons of different fonts to choose from. It's just struggling to load because I'm also recording my screen at the same time. But if I click here, let's see if this works. Okay, it does this nice fancy text. I can go ahead and play around with the type that I want for the title of my album or the name of my musical artist. So maybe I want to change that. There's all sorts of fonts in here. I don't know what this one, yeah, that one's not going to work. Scroll down here, tons of different types of fonts. I highly recommend spending some time thinking about, ooh, that one's kind of fun. Thinking about what font makes the most sense for your musical artist. I actually really like that one. So that's Font Diner Swank. I'm going to try one more though, just to kind of get an idea of which one I like the best. Ooh, Henny Penny. What's Henny Penny? Ooh, that's kind of fun too. I think I actually like the Swank Diner one a little bit better though. So I'm going to go up. Let's see if I can find it again. I forgot what it started with. I scrolled quite a ways down too. Let's just try and find Swank. There we go. Okay, I remember the word swanky. Perfect. Okay, and then if I drag my cursor over here into the corner, it'll let me move. It gives me that little crosshair, so I can move it wherever I want. I kind of think it actually might be kind of funny to have the words kind of coming out like from behind Beck. So I'm going to try to do that. I might even do some warp on that text, but you'll see that I have a text layer here. So it's an actual text layer. This is not a regular layer. Again, if I want to click on a different layer and work on it and then come back to this text layer and then maybe change the color, I just have to click, make sure the text or type tool is selected, click on it, and then I can change the color at any time to whatever color I want. I'm going to go back to white, click OK. All right, so I think I'm going to try warping this. So I'm going to click on warp, and warping lets you kind of play around with the bend of the type. Oh, it's not going to work though. Weird. Come on. All right, it's not working because I don't have anything selected. So here we go. Arch. Ooh, look at that. And this is very similar in Photoshop. It'll show up at the top there. I believe it's a T with a little arch, and it will let you choose all of these different types of warping of text, which is very, very handy to know. So I wanted it to kind of look like it's coming up from behind him. I'm just trying to figure out which one looks the best. There's even like fisheye, inflate, twist. It's kind of interesting. Let's see. I think I'll do arch, maybe upper. And here you can control how much of a bend. Let's see with the horizontal distortion. Yeah, something like that actually. Because I can always change the size. Yeah, I kind of like that it's, let's see what it looks like with a space in between each letter. Sometimes just adding a space can kind of, yeah, I kind of like that. It's kind of funky. It looks like it's almost coming out of his ear. But I want the Beck layer to be behind, or I want the word layer to be behind the image of Beck. So in order to do that, all I have to do is click and drag the Beck layer down, and now it's behind him. And I'm actually going to adjust the size of this Beck layer. Whoops. I always do that. Control-Alt-T. There we go. And this will let me click and drag and play around with the size a little more. Here we go. So I want all the letters. I don't want it too big though. I don't want it going off the page. All of the letters to be touching his head. There we go. Awesome. And then I'm going to hit enter on the keyboard, and I have some really funky text. It looks great. The very last thing I'm going to show you on getting started with this is going to be some blending options. And these are available on any regular layer, or any layer, I think. Let's try it on the type tool. So I'm going to right click and I'm going to go to blending options. And this is the very same on Photoshop. So I'm going to click and drag this over. I always do that with these boxes. I like to see what's happening. I like to see the preview. Here you'll see bevel and emboss, contour, texture, stroke. So if I click on stroke, let's see what that looks like. I'm actually going to just physically click on it and then select it there. And you'll notice that my Beck text has changed. It's got a red outline. And the reason why it's got a red outline is because I selected this. So I'm going to change that outline to black. I'm going to click OK. And I'm going to make that outline bigger. Not too big, but a little bit bigger so it's easier to see. And here you can say, if you want it, right now it's on the outside, but you can say you want it on the inside, you want it on the center, or on the outside. You can also choose a blending mode for that. So again, those multiply, all of those blending modes, overlays, options. And you can also lower the opacity. So that's stroke, that's outlining. And again, this will work on any layer. So I can actually just click OK. I'm going to do it on the Beck layer too. I'm going to give them an outline, except I'm going to give them, I think, a white outline. Now this is always awesome. I love this. This is a great example. I did the stroke and you're seeing all of these things here. These are just things that I didn't see and erase. So I'm actually going to click OK on this, and I'm going to erase away all of those things that I missed. So just making sure I'm on the right layer. You can't give an outline to something that isn't there. It actually looks kind of cool. I kind of like that, but I'm going to just make sure that I erase it. Yeah, this is a common problem. This is a great example, though. I'm glad that it worked out this way. Perfect. Yeah. So he's kind of glowing now. I'm going to right click again and go to blending options. I'm actually going to see, instead of stroke, maybe I can do a glow. So let's do an outer glow. So I'm going to click on this. I'm going to click on that. I'm going to choose the color as white. Click OK. I'm going to make it bigger. Ooh, yes, I like that. I'm going to make it spread out a little more. All right, I can play with the opacity. Very cool. Click OK. It's like very angelic right now. And on the text layer, I'll show you a couple other blending options. So I just right clicked on that again. So there's contour and texture. So if you want to give it a texture, so you can see it kind of looks like it's carved out of rock or something. Bevel and emboss is basically going to give you that effect. Kind of gives it a 3D look. You can see that. There's inner shadow. So you can see what that looks like. Inner glow, which you won't see because it's black or white right now. We'll see if I add a color. Maybe I'll do green. Let's see what happens here. If it'll actually show up. I don't know if it will. There, yeah. So you can kind of see how that works. So it created this inner glow on the inside. So that's inner glow. Satin, which just does kind of this almost plasticky look. Color overlay, if you want just a quick way to change the color. Gradient overlay, same thing. So if you want a gradient inside your text, and pattern overlay as well. And then that outer glow we already looked at, and then drop shadow if you want your layer to have a drop shadow. And you can use these on any layers that you choose. Again, don't forget to do File, Save as PSD. I recommend doing that about every 10 minutes or so of work. So that way, if you did lose your work, it's only 10 minutes worth, and you can always go back to the previously saved version. So if I click on this, I can actually open up, you know, the previous version and work with that in Photoshop. It's actually opening in Photoshop now because I clicked on it. Photoshop or Photopea because they're interchangeable. And it preserves the layers. So always make sure you do PSD and not JPG. And we'll just keep taking it from here. So for now, I'm going to call it good. This video is almost 20 minutes long. So I showed you quite a few different things: the type tool, the blending options, moving the layers around, grabbing the images from Google Images, warping text, you know, moving the text, resizing, lots of cool new things that you can try. So I encourage you to go off and try all of these and have some fun doing it.